Doom Eternal has a lot of weapons that are used to kill demons. Amazing intro. There's the weapons you use in typical fights like the shotgun, plasma rifle, or chain gun for example, but what about those other weapons? Weapons that, to me, are debatable whether they're considered part of the Doom Dance, the gameplay loop, the Fist Demon Tango. You know what I'm saying? Weapons like the BFG, the Unmaker, Crucible, or this new one, like the Sentinel Hammer. I'll also be talking about the other weapons that are found on your equipment launcher, like the frag grenade or the ice grenade, and also some other stuff too. I guess a good place to start is, what is the Doom Dance? Well, it's essentially a system that tells the player how to be good at the game, and this is my understanding of it. There are two general components, resource management and movement. Movement is simple enough to understand, but resource management? Well, that's also simple enough to understand, but for this topic, it's important that we explore it a bit. The main resources you manage are health, ammo, and armor, and in higher levels of play, those things are going to be crazy, like the soundtrack you're listening to while playing. For all of your main weapons, you mainly get ammo from engaging demons through the teeth of your chainsaw, but for the others, like Unmaker or Crucible, they're different. You get them through pickups placed by the map maker. Their limited number in a map is one of the reasons why I don't use them. They don't feel satisfying to use to skip encounters or a decent portion of an encounter, but that's just for me personally. In an alternate universe where I did use them, I'd use them like this. I know most to all possible encounters in Doom Eternal. I can't list every single enemy in each encounter, but I have general knowledge about the heavy hitters in it. For example, I know at the top of my head that at one of the Blood Swamp's Trials of Malagog Arena, there are going to be 2 buff totems, 3 to 4 Barons of Hell, one of them possessed, 2 to 3 Tyrants, and a bunch of annoying carcasses and shield guys. Well, I guess I don't have proof that I remembered that off the top of my head considering that these videos are scripted, but just trust me I guess. So, knowing when to use the BFG to essentially speed up or significantly make some encounters easier is a desirable thing. For the Unmaker, in my admittedly little experience with it, rather than spending big chunks of ammo to take out an arena's worth of enemies at a time, you instead spend more concentrated fires of that. The Crucible, on the other hand, is very similar, as in you have a very limited use of it, and ammo is placed by the map maker. Unlike the super weapons, the BFG and the Unmaker, it has its specific ammo type, and you can only have 3 charges at a time. Using it kills any enemy in one hit with the cost of a charge, so you can kiss those super heavy demons goodbye. Well, unfortunately, this is not an alternative universe, so I still don't use them. I guess the biggest reason why I don't is because it doesn't really match my own preference and playstyle with the game. They make the game easier in a way that doesn't click with me. It's a static way of dealing with encounters that take the fun out of doing them. I've beaten all content in the hardest possible difficulty, which is Ultra Nightmare, and for those who don't know, it's essentially the hardest difficulty, but when you die you restart the whole campaign or master level, since they have that option too. I'm not saying that to brag, I'm just saying that I have a lot of experience when it comes to Doom Eternal. Not that it makes me qualified, but that doesn't mean that I'm not qualified, I guess? The fun thing about Doom Eternal is that no matter how much I play it, there's always scenarios that I get cornered. I run out of resources at a really bad time or make a casual movement mistake that severely hampers me. It's dynamic. The limited resources of the super weapons, the BFG and Unmaker, takes that fun away since for the most efficient play you always use them at specific times and specific encounters, which doesn't do it for me. Well, aside from the fact that I don't find them fun to use in general play, though I recognize that it can also be a lot of fun knowing when to use them. Just because I say I don't prefer them, that doesn't mean that I am advocating for getting rid of them. I still love the fact that they're there, I just don't use them. Since these weapons' ammo types are outside the jurisdiction of your chainsaw, they don't have much of an impact on the gameplay loop, but more like an add-on or just more options for the player. What does have a significant impact though is the Sentinel Hammer, or the Hellbreaker if you want to sound cool. What this essentially does is that you go up in the air and then smash down to the ground and create a shockwave that damages, stuns, and most importantly for this case, siphon ammo out of the demons affected. Now, I don't really know how this works or why sawing a demon gives you ammo, but it's a fun gameplay mechanic and I am not complaining nor caring. This thing only has 1 hit till it needs to be filled up again, but you can get those charges back through shooting demons' weak points or glory killing, which are things you should be doing anyway. It rewards the player from doing what the game wants you to do. Aside from being a really powerful offensive tool, what does it do for the resource management side of things? This is one of the two only tools in Doom Eternal that gives you general ammo as a reward for using it. The difference between this and the chainsaw though is that it is much stronger. It has like the same power as a grenade with the bonus effect of stunning demons for long periods of time, but with no cooldown. I cannot overstate how powerful this thing is. Unfortunately though, no matter how powerful it is, it's not like it can save me from silly mistakes. Dang it. It effectively replaces the prior ammo resource management loop, or PARML or PARML for short, since you essentially get infinite ammo with little to no cooldown, and you're incentivized to use this thing anyway since it's valuable in encounters. Unlike the chainsaw, which in most cases you use on single fodder demons. And by single, I mean single target and not, well, single. If you're like me, which thank God you're not, you'll try and use this thing 24/7, so essentially you have infinite ammo. As you can see from the footage, it's pretty easy to get those charges back, though it is a bit of a risk to use it sometimes, but in most cases they are 100% fine to use. So what does this mean? Why does this matter? This is a question I ask myself every day. Well, a lot. If you're perceptive, you're probably thinking of how this affects combat, since one of the major gameplay elements in Doom Eternal is resource management. Instead of trying to balance your weapon choices by calculating the difference of demons in the arena compared to your arsenal and the ammo types they use and what it does in relation to your general pool of resources in that specific moment of time, you instead get to skip that since you have a much more dependable stream of resources now. You're given a lot more freedom in doing whatever you want with your arsenal, and therefore, you can use the strongest weapons a lot more, like the micro-missile mod, super shotgun, ballista, or rocket launcher. Weapons that can absolutely shred health bars. Especially the super shotgun. I'm not saying this as a negative aspect, but what I am saying is that it changes the dynamic of the encounter since the players get an indirect power boost through more ammo, or much more than that if you also consider the direct offensive capabilities of the hammer. But again, what does this mean? It means that the developers will be a bit rougher with the way they place their demons, and by rough I mean they'll be more lenient with crowding the player with masses of demons. Oh my god! Which provides a much more entertaining, different, dynamic, and more importantly, fun experience than what we have seen before. By the way, are there still content coming from Doom Eternal? We never really got a formal notice that development has ended or anything, but I guess it has been a while since Doom Eternal released anything new. Are we not getting any more master levels? So what about the other kinds of weapons, like the flame belch, the different kinds of grenades, and your fists? These weapons are mainly used as tools, to be honest, rather than for damaging. Well, except one, but even then its properties are better when they are used for anything other than damaging, but we'll get to it later. The first few weapons are going to be found on your shoulder cannon, and we'll start with the flame belch. Now, this thing does little to no damage to enemies, but it is extraordinarily useful in resource management as far as armor is concerned. Spray this flamey boy to a crowd of demons and you are guaranteed to get your armor filled up. And if there's still leftover armor from the ground, then no need to fret, since they can still be useful. For example, the player can now play a bit more aggressively in that area since it minimizes the risk of getting to critical health since you have a soft cushion of extra armor. This is genius since that pool of armor can only be possible depending on significant things like the concentration of demons in a given area, in a portion of the specific arena. It tests the knowledge of arena structure, demon placement, and the way you might get disadvantage or take advantage of the types of demons in that given space. God, it's such a small thing, but I love it so much. Another weapon you have is the frag grenade, and it's useful to get enemies off of you and/or kill a massive amount of fodder demons in a concentrated area. The former helps by essentially faltering enemies, and by faltering I mean triggering their damage animation states, leaving them open for any potential attacks, or for you to reposition. Chucking this thing in an area filled with enemies ensure that you'll take a brief breather. You can also use them against more powerful targets to falter them like super heavies, so that they don't get a chance to attack since they hurt a lot. You can also use it to clear out massive amounts of fodder demon, especially when you upgrade it. Fodder can be excellent at blocking you, so at least you have a tool for that. A sister of the frag grenade, the ice bomb, is a weapon I don't really use that much, which to be honest I probably should since it gives health when you damage enemies under its influence. You deal more damage, and it has an independent cooldown to the frag grenade. Also, it just freezes enemies. That's a pretty useful ability. Think of the way that the frag grenade can give you a breather, but much longer. A deep inhale instead. Using all the equipment in your equipment launcher is satisfying to trigger at one group too. You should try it out sometimes. It's as satisfying as a good stretch. That was an interesting way to say that. There are also your fists. At its optimum state, it contains 2 charges, and you can charge it by glory killing demons. You gain half a charge if you do it to a fodder demon. Anything that's a heavy or higher fills it up by 1 charge. You should be using this when you can. It's not a typical weapon in the same way a gun is, but this thing is what separates a good Doom Eternal player from a not good one. Aside from movement, resource management, weapon knowledge, arena knowledge, enemy knowledge, and probably a bit more that makes a good Doom Eternal player, but this tactical knowledge of punching demons at the right time is definitely one of them. I excluded some information though. You don't only get charges from glory kills. Assuming that the player has all upgrades, you can charge the ability through excess health and armor drops. So, for example, if you have health or ammo lying on the ground that you don't need, feel free to blood punch away. There's no cooldown too, so feel free to keep mashing that ability until all your resources run out. I love how the resource management aspects of the game intertwine so closely with the combat in this visceral way. I definitely want to see something like this in other games too. Think about it like combining classic Farmville and arena shooters, and there you go. I should be a game designer now. I did it. Wow. Look at that, it's the end of the video, but not yet. We are still missing a weapon, and that is the player themselves. Woo, abstract! These systems are all dependent on one thing, the player. It takes a player to do and use all of these maneuvers, and that's where the real beauty of Doom Eternal shines. Not the cool weaponry, but the beautiful ways the player accesses and uses these systems in the heat of battle. So much movement and decision-making skills needed to use these tools in the best way possible makes this game shine as bright as a piece of reflective metal that's out on a parking lot in a hot, sunny day. Aww, such a beautiful way to end this video. But anyways, thank you for chiming in, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. That was a threat, by the way. You better hope I see you in the next video. So, bye-bye.